You know, we all use two incredibly powerful and really different communication systems every single day. One comes out of your mouth, and the other is written all over your face. What you probably don't realize is that this is an evolutionary dance that's been millions of years in the making. So let's just jump right in. I mean, think about it. You really do speak two languages. One is the language you learn, the one with grammar and vocabulary. The other, you were born with it. One lets you build entire worlds with words, while the other communicates pure emotion without making a single sound. So, how do they actually work? And what happens when we try to read that second, unspoken language on, say, our pets? To really get this, we need to meet the two main characters in our story. One of them is an ancient, instinctive tool that we share with a huge part of the animal kingdom. The other is a modern, brilliant invention that is totally, uniquely human. And here's where you can see just how different they are, side by side. On one hand, you have facial expressions. These are ancient. We're talking instinctive, emotional, and something we share with most other mammals. But then you have language. That is our human-only superpower. It's a much more recent development, you have to learn it, and it's what lets us talk about big, abstract ideas, not just our immediate feelings. Okay, let's zoom in on facial expressions. This is a tool that's so fundamental it's pretty much universal, as you can see from the translation here. Think of it like the original social network, a super fast, gut-level language that builds trust and lets us feel empathy. It's the reason you can walk into a room and instantly, without a word, get a vibe for your friend's mood. It's a biological system deeply rooted in who we are. And then there's language. This is like the incredibly complex, sophisticated software that runs only on our highly developed human brains. It's not just for saying simple things like, I'm happy or I'm sad. No, language is how we build everything that makes our society what it is. You know, legal systems, science, art, history, the whole shebang. It is the tool for abstract thought. But this is where it gets really interesting. Because in humans, these two systems don't just exist next to each other. Over time, they've actually evolved to work together in this perfect partnership. And what they create together is so much richer and more nuanced than either one could be on its own. So how does this actually play out? Well, imagine you ask someone how they're doing, and they just say, I'm fine. Okay, the words, that's the basic concept, but it's their face that tells you the real story, right? A relaxed, genuine smile, that confirms the words. But a pained expression, a tight jaw, maybe they can't quite meet your eyes, that tells you the truth is something very different. The face is the lie detector. It validates the meaning of the words. And this quote just nails it. It really gets to the heart of this partnership. We build the idea, the concept, with our words, but we use the face to check it, to regulate it, to confirm it. I love this analogy. Words build the house, but the face tells you if anyone is actually home. And our brains are just naturally wired to process both signals at the exact same time. Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on how this works in humans. But what about animals? I mean, we see expressions on their faces all the time, don't we? But are we reading them correctly? This is where our story takes a fun little twist. Oh, come on, you know this scene. We've all been there. You walk in the door, there's a pillow shredded all over the living room, and your dog gives you that look. We immediately call it the guilty face. But is that what's really happening inside their head? Is that dog feeling a complex emotion of guilt? Or are we just seeing what we expect to see? To answer that, we need to understand a really key idea. It's called human centrism. Basically, it's our built-in natural tendency to see the entire world through a human filter. We can't help it. We project our own complicated emotions, like guilt or shame or jealousy, onto animals because, well, seeing the world from a human point of view is our default set. So if it's a bias, why are we so convinced we can read our pets' minds? Well, there are a few big reasons. First, their faces have structures that are similar enough to ours. They've got eyes, a mouth, muscles that move. Then you layer on that human-centric bias we just talked about. Plus, they've been living with us for thousands and thousands of years, which leads us to the real kick. And that kicker is artificial selection. For centuries, sometimes without even realizing it, we have been breeding dogs that are better at communicating with us. Think about it. A dog that can do those puppy dog eyes or raise its inner brows to look all sad and pathetic, that dog is way more likely to get our attention, our sympathy, and our support. We've essentially selected for animals that are better at hacking our ancient facial expression reading software.
So, let's pull back. We have these two languages, one of the face, one of the voice. One is ancient and emotional, the other is modern and conceptual. And understanding this incredible dance isn't just some fun piece of trivia. It's absolutely fundamental to understanding how we build everything, from trust between two people to entire civilization.
All right, let's boil it all down to the big takeaways. First, we operate on two parallel tracks. Expressions are ancient and emotional. Language is modern and conceptual. Second, in humans, these two things team up to create this amazing synergy for really nuanced meaning. Third, when we look at animals, we got to remember we're looking through a human-centric lens. And finally, these two systems are the foundation of our society. Expressions build trust, and language builds culture. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you know the steps to this incredible evolutionary dance, what are you going to pay more attention to in your next conversation? Which language will you find yourself trusting more? The words you're hearing, or the story you're seeing?